Thank you. I'm gonna call our meeting to order at 4:31 on Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. Same agenda as last month that went out. I'll start with a roll call. I am present. Vice Chair Swenson Harris.
I am present.
Commissioner Fibley.
Here.
Commissioner Helmer. Commissioner Donovan.
Here.
Commissioner Wood. And Commissioner Howard.
Present.
Quorum being present, we'll get started. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. And we'll,
Our guest.
perfect, okay. We'll wait for our guest then.
In addition to the agenda, but I have a
Okay.
request for help regarding the walking
Okay.
tour.
We can do it. We'll do it with the educational opportunities.
Come on. Thank you very much.
It should be pretty quick. I just turned out not to be an expert on architecture.
I don't know.
Come on in.
Anywhere good? That door is shutting on its own.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Chair Elise Josephson. And we're ready for you for a little public comment.
Oh, okay.
And you don't have a beaver shirt on, so you're
A good start.
fine.
You don't have a what?
You don't have a beaver shirt,
We don't have any.
or you have a duck, a duck shirt.
You're a duck, not a beaver.
We're both, Sharon.
Well.
Our granddaughter went to Oregon State.
Oh, okay.
And graduated. Our grandson went to the U of O and graduated.
And they get along fine.
Yeah, and they're opposite as far as favorite schools. So.
Anyway, my name is Orville Tharp.
And I'm
My
Karen.
wife, Sharon Tharp, her grandmother lived in this house. And this house was built in 1885.
So, yeah, that's what it's, yeah.
And when it was built, it was just this much. Oops, I'm sorry, just that much. And then this addition was put on after we had a fire upstairs, up there. So, and then in 1997, I believe, we did a complete remodel on the front of the house. Fixed up the porch and new plaster in the living room and the, not the dining room, living room, bedroom, and, the,
That sitting room there.
that's called the living room.
There, those first, front two rooms.
Yeah, I'm
actually were
sorry.
Living room.
This is the living room, this is a master bedroom. No, that's not the that's the
Looks like it's the sitting room.
studio room. Stan Hahn, do you know Stan
Yes.
Hahn from anyone from from Hahn Design? Well, anyway, he did the remodel on this. Took all the plaster off the walls and we did some wiring in it, installed some heaters in it and stuff like that. New plaster in there, painted the whole house. It looked great. But that was 25 years ago, more. And my son, my father-in-law gave the house to my son. So he moved in there and 3 wives later, he's still in there. But he didn't really do.
Do you have a room for each wife?
No,
No.
no, we want to add that now.
Oh.
No, he fell at work and on a concrete floor. Hit his head and brain damage. Got a hole in his skull about that big around now. And that was June the 6th when he fell. So he's back in Craig Hospital. Anyone heard about that one in Denver? it's the best, spinal and brain rehabilitation hospital in the world. As far as they're concerned. But it's really a great hospital. And, while he's back there, and he's gonna be in a wheelchair for a while, we don't know how long, because it all depends on how fast he recovers. So we want to make this house handicap accessible. This bathroom has the old clawfoot bathtub in there. I don't think he'd be able to get in and out of that. So we want to put on a new bathroom. And what we'd like to do, without changing the front of the building at all, is to fill this in right there and put a bedroom, bathroom, another bedroom. And this back section back here is not built to code. The 2x4s for this this portion here and the whole back in here are laying flat. And the walls are holding up the floors. So we want the ceiling height is 10 feet. So we're gonna drop the ceiling height in this portion of it. And when we build this ceiling heights will be the same through. And then we'll put some beams and stuff, more support for the second floor.
Are you gonna get rid of the old bathroom and?
I'm gonna leave the old bathroom just because it's sentimental value
Uh-huh.
to Sharon and the rest of the family too,
Too.
you know.
My grandma raised me.
We lived in it for a year with Graham, while we built our house, which is what'd you call us, invader?
At one time.
Yeah.
From the
Yeah.
Washburn district.
We built the house in
We built it, yeah,
1962, and that was
62.
before Washburn
And-
District, and
Yeah, it was
so,
intruder, that was what it was.
yeah. Invader's good too. But anyways,
Was there anything else? Did you say any modifications to like a kitchen or routes around the property or other things that you're thinking of to make it accessible?
well, I've got an architect coming over Thursday. And because of the hipped roofs and the way they are, we've got a bad spot here where this roof line comes down onto this section here. There's a hole back in there because this roof line goes under that roof line. So I'm thinking that he might recommend, because of the structure and everything, he might recommend to cut that house off right there and redo the whole thing. Yes,
And so am I correct in understanding that back portion is not original? The upper level is original, correct? Or is that an addition as well?
the upper level. Sharon, do you remember, they told us that the upper level is where the fire was back in,
It was on
okay,
the front bedroom side,
the front bedroom side?
up in the attic.
Front bedroom. Oh, yeah, okay. This bedroom here is where it was.
Bedrooms upstairs.
But this was, this part back here was original, which is over this part right here. The stairs comes up and curves around, goes into this bedroom. So all of this was built early 1900s. And it was built by her grandfather, who was a farmer in a grocery store. So guy, he didn't have codes back in those days. So he just laid those 2x4s flat up there, and we didn't find that out until Stan did the remodel on this and started digging into the ceiling and getting the plaster up there, and so that may be what he will recommend, I don't know.
Okay.
But we're gonna keep the same front picture, which is right here.
Elevation.
And so there wouldn't be any changes that would be visible from the street, from what you're considering.
No, see, this section here is back behind all the trees and stuff. We have a deck on this right now, right here.
Yeah, there's a picture, sort of. Yeah, right there,
It's the best angle like.
right behind that.
Well, you've been working, huh? I didn't see you there. You've been working. Okay, okay. Did you look up, is that 97 is about the right time that Stan Hahn did that?
I'm not sure about the addition. The original listing, or not original listing, but from the survey that was done in 1985, it captured that snapshot then of what was done. It has history on, the former residence, when it was built, and stuff like that. So, yeah,
Okay,
and I guess if that was prior to 97 or whenever, then those changes would have been documented, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, the front is gonna be fixed up naturally. It's been deteriorating. This post is just hanging there. So, on the porch roof. And the pier columns are the old time style, and we're gonna keep that. I'm gonna paint it up like,
The way it was.
yeah, it's yellow with white trim on the outside. The living room in here is that dark oak trim about that wide with the grooves going up and down. Front door is beautiful oak too. So we're gonna save that, and we're gonna try to make it look like it was originally.
Possibly a ramp to get up those first two steps, or,
That I don't know either until the architect gets here. That's 14 inches of steps to get up to off of the sidewalk. So to get a wheelchair ramp, we'd have to come out quite a ways, and that
yeah.
sidewalk, as you see, has got a little ramp going up. We might not be able to get low enough with that sidewalk there, so we might have to tear the sidewalk up and make it lower, and so that we get
Gotcha.
the right elevation. There's a formula for that
Mhm.
I don't know about,
14 feet.
Yeah.
14 feet.
One.
but
It's 1 to 12. You need 14 feet if it's a 14-inch high.
we're
Is there
gonna
room
fix it. Pardon?
along the side of the house to
What?
do, is there room along the side of the house if you wanted to do kind of a walkway and a ramp to maybe a new entrance in the addition that could be, like, that could get you up to the right height instead of
Well,
altering that entrance stoop?
if we cut this off and redo it, what we might do is have an entrance off the alley. There's lots of people that don't have a garage there, and the alley comes into the house right here, and that's down at ground level. That is, that playroom, that it's got a slab and a foundation. And so we might come in there and then get up into the house somewhere. If we cut it off here, we've got all kinds of options that we can make it work. I didn't want to put another entry.
Yeah, I mean around the back, yeah, like if you had a path coming here, or like you're saying along the alley, just using the addition
Yeah,
as an opportunity to create an entrance that was accessible.
Access from the back of the property might end up being a great design solution, but I think if you end up wanting to propose accessible access from the front of the house, I think we should definitely consider that too, because just the equitable experience of anybody who lives in the house being able to come right through the front door could be a good reason to modify the front of the property, even though we often try to encourage changes to happen from the back. But for your son to be able to go in and out of his own house is really important.
Absolutely.
well, I appreciate that. We just want to make it look as good as we remember it.
And we appreciate that too. We can't do anything until you have a permit in, work with Tom.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah,
Once we have everything we need, we'll take votes, but until then,
well, it's
Thank you
just
for the
very
presentation.
fortunate that I called you today
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
and get to meet you people and explain a little bit about the history of the house and, how we wanna fix it up so it's, premier Washburn District House.
That's great.
Yeah.
Like it was when I grew up there.
Thank you for
Pardon?
including us.
I said like it was when I grew up there.
Yeah, and when we got married,
Yeah.
we stayed in the house with Graham. She was, 80 something, and, until we built our house, which is right behind this house on 431 East Street.
Oh. Yeah.
And we built that house there because Graham,
She owned. the
was
property.
getting up in age. She lived to be 102.
Wow.
And, she had a garden back there, and so we helped her with that too.
very cool.
And there used to be a garage on the back of the house.
Years ago.
Yeah, years ago. It was on the, left-hand side of the lot. Yeah, right back there where that,
Over the pad is.
yeah. And I think that's a tree. But some of those are coming down too. It looks like a jungle back there. My, my, daughter-in-law is a person that, well, she's a hoarder.
Yeah.
A collector.
She doesn't want to get rid of it.
All right, I've taken up enough of your
Thank you.
time unless you have any more questions.
Not right now,
Oh, no,
Uh,
it seems like a path forward though.
for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to get it fast forward because he's improving so fast. We don't know when he's gonna be able to come home. At first, they thought that it might be up to 6 months. Because after the hospital rehab, then they send him to another hospital for occupational rehab,
Mhm.
trying to get him back in shape enough that he can go back to work.
Got it.
Although he's 62 years old and was thinking about retiring anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, so. Anyway, we want to do whatever we can to help him and having that house fixed up will help in his recovery because
Yeah.
he'll know everything about it and all that, so. Okay,
Absolutely.
well, thank you so much for letting me take up a little bit of your time. I appreciate it.
That's why we're here. Thank you.
Appreciate it too. Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks for lugging this.
Yes.
big picture down. That's great.
yeah, Stan drew that.
So-
After he finished the remodel in the house, and so I was really pleasantly surprised when he presented it.
Yeah.
Let's have it framed.
Are you gonna have him
More
work on the
detail
new
than we
part?
sometimes get.
Are you gonna stand do the addition?
You know, I called him 3 times and I never get a call back. I don't know whether he's still in business or not, but he did do the optometrist office down here on,
He's semi-retired, but
pardon?
I said, I think he's semi-retired, but I feel like you could twist his arm since you have history with him.
Well, I can't twist his arm because I worked with him on on the child center out there. So, he and I got along real good then, but I don't know, you know how things go.
Yeah.
If
Very
he's
good.
semi-retired, he doesn't want you to talk to him.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's like everybody asking me to do their electrical. work.
Right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, we will move right on along into educational opportunities with Celine for a request for some help.
Yeah, so as all of you know, I agreed to start working on redoing our walking tour guide. And something that I think we talked about at an earlier meeting as I started to sort of go through these and compile information is that a lot of the language in the existing walking tour guide is pretty technical. I sort of as a test, my husband and I went out and did the walking tour and ran into quite a few terms that were sort of like, we don't really know what these are. And that I think for a lot of people who don't have a background in historic homes or historic preservation may not know what it is. So I have gone through the document. I have, and I will email this as well for the folks on Zoom, but I have sort of pulled out some of these terms that I think are maybe not very accessible as currently written. And would love to ask everyone here who maybe knows things I don't to help put together some definitions for these, so that when we're rewriting the document, we can either include a glossary or find a better way to describe these in the text that people will be able to understand what they're being directed to. So I will pass this around and then I will also send an email in so we can forward it out.
So you want us to read and make suggestions?
Yeah, if you'd be if there are people, and I don't know everyone's background here, but if people feel like they have a good way to describe these terms in language that would be easily accessible. I think that would be a good thing to get started on.
It's a great idea and
Mhm.
totally doable.
Yeah.
I even feel like, you know, like in the Virginia McAllister book or one of the other books, like they even have like little pictorial, like this type of, this shape of roof, this shape of roof, this shape of roof, like even just, I don't know if we can get permissions or like how we, I don't know, there's some of that even in our historic commission booklet, right? Don't we have a little bit of that? in
There's a little bit.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know where, I
there
don't
are some.
remember where those came from. Whether we own them.
Do we think it's part of the sort of appeal or purpose of the walking tour to use some of these words, or could we come up with sort of pseudonyms or more accessible language? I'm wondering if that like glossary approach is part of what people might want from the guide or not. And because I am a little bit like of a wonky nerd about this stuff, I'm always curious, like, what do we think most people want out of the walking tour?
I think people
I-
like new terms, like
Yeah.
learning like funky little quirky new terms, like a coin, right? Like, you're like, oh, a new thing, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. As someone who like doesn't do architecture, but like finds it coolish. I think knowing what a cove ceiling is, I think would be cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few places in there where like just maybe the language that has been chosen is not necessarily architecturally inaccessible, it's just inaccessible, that we might want to work on, but these terms, I think it would be cool to actually give people either examples in pictures or some sort of description.
Never heard architrave before, if you could shed light on that. but-
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, Never seen that word in my life.
All right.
Covered ceiling, kind of double negative or
Yeah.
something.
Anything else on this before we move on?
I've been a little bit behind on my research of individual houses. I'm working on it.
All right. Next, we're gonna move on to our project, our Indigenous Histories project that we talked about last month. I guess, last meeting, 2 months ago. It's developed a little bit so that now we have a proposal from Dr. Lewis. That proposal is off to the state to see if it will be approved. The museum is working with some intergovernmental Lane County folks as well to see if they're interested. And it's unclear if the state will approve us funding it, but I did want to let you all know that there is a proposal. We got it yesterday. And that the cliff notes are, and I'm happy to send it to anyone who wants it. The cliff notes are, he basically wants to take a look at Indigenous people who are connected to Springfield, but expects that will end up looking to places they were outside of Springfield, both because of a history of sundown laws in Springfield that would have prevented them from sleeping here. And also that much of our history is timber. And so there weren't a lot of trees to cut down in Springfield once you made a city. And so we're waiting to hear back from the state on the feelings on that, but did want to get everyone's temperature on tentatively approving, subject to state approval, the use of funds that we talked about last month.
1000%, yeah.
No, new motion.
I have a question and then I will
Okay.
have a motion. What is the financial contribution that we have available or would need to make for this?
Up to $4,000 is what we would have available based on
Okay.
our current budget. The projected, for whether or not we would be in for all of this, well, in for all of the stages, to clarify. He's projecting to do it in stages and with an estimated budget of a total of 18,000, obviously not all coming from us. And unclear when what the staging will look like, but an estimated completion of March of 26. So 18 months from the start of the project.
And we have partnerships forming with other groups that have an interest in investing in this as well.
Correct.
Okay.
So Lane County is working with the museum. The museum this year is focusing on Indigenous histories, Indigenous people in the city of Springfield today. And so there's some energy, especially because it's their current exhibition topic. And trying to actually get more folks on board.
I would like to move that we authorize up to 4,000 towards this project, subject to approval from the state that that is an allowable use of our funds.
Any debate? All right, any objection? All right, seeing none, motion stands approved. Easy peasy. And then, what else do we have?
Will we get a chance to see that proposal?
Yeah, do you want to, I can send it to you. Or I can send it to everybody. Everybody wants it. Okay,
We should get a
And-
gavel. That would be cool.
okay, I will send it out. And then commissioner updates, Commissioner Helmer.
Sure, yeah. An update about the ADA curb ramp project.
If you're
Our, sure, our baseline report is almost ready to share. I just sent it back for some final edits today, so it should be done relatively soon, and then I'll share it with everyone on the commission, or I'll send it to Tom to. I think for me, the sort of highlights that came out of our consultants' recommendations are they did not recommend the downtown area as an eligible district. This is such a brief survey that there isn't a strong statement as to why, but I can work with them to make sure we understand that if anyone feels like that was an oversight. But I'm guessing their recommendation will be that there are many periods of construction all within that block. And that some of the structures from various periods have had modifications. So they probably were looking for kind of one coherent period of significance and found instead an interesting mix of different, potentially individually eligible properties. But I can get more information from them on that.
By eligible, you mean historically eligible, but are they still eligible to get curb ramps updates?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, whether they are historically significant,
Yeah.
whether they are potentially eligible for listing in the National Register.
Yeah.
Thank you, I was being wonky, thank you for catching me. All of the locations that we looked at on a map last time, those are still in consideration for the project. All of the areas downtown, I think are gonna be some of the latest to be designed and built. Probably because those are signalized intersections and there's zero setbacks, and it's just a more interesting place to try and meet ADA standards. The other interesting thing that I noticed in the baseline report is that, because this was sort of a quick, sometimes it's referred to as a windshield level survey. They literally did walk all the locations and take photos, but what they were doing is providing kind of just a thumbs up of thumbs and thumbs down of, is it of historic age based on tax assessor records and other pretty reliable sources? Is it of historic age, and does it mostly look like it did during that period of significance, or does it mostly look like it's changed a lot? So nothing in the report is going to, for instance, change the official listed status or protections. It's just a scoping document. In the downtown area, There has been more research done in the past, so they were able, I think, to offer more, they were more likely to call something not eligible because it has previously been considered by the city and the State Historic Preservation Office. So what I noticed, sort of counterintuitive, but downtown where we have a lot of historic structures, they're almost more likely to feel comfortable saying something is not eligible because we were able to pull previous research. As we head out towards Thurston, there are so many properties that were built before 1974 that look like they were built before 1974, and so therefore were flagged as potentially eligible. So I think that when you see it, you may be surprised or delighted or intrigued to see just how many resources of all kinds of, houses and garages and utilitarian structures that for now we've just said could be. So I think that is the current status.
And just assessed for historic age and like continuity and not whether or not it's of historic or community interest, correct?
Right.
Okay.
The next step would be as we start to look at what impacts the project could have on those properties that all got
Sure.
the green flag. At that point, if it looks like we would propose, for instance, removing a tree or altering a fence or encroaching on somebody's property with an easement, that will prompt a further level of research and study and consultation to say, okay, in addition to being, is it actually this old? Has it been altered over time? Do those alterations have significance in their own right? And what kind of story is there so that we're further defining the resource? And the reason we do that is so that way we can be more clear and accountable for whether the impact is relevant to the history and integrity of the property. And I think we are probably months, if not a year out from getting to that phase, because a lot of design work will need to happen.
I just want to clarify that, am I correct in thinking that just because downtown was not considered eligible doesn't mean there will actually be impacts to any of those buildings, right? That it's unlikely that there would be changes that we would be concerned about. Is that right?
I guess I don't want to make that
Okay.
commitment because there may be some changes we propose that will be worthwhile to talk about. Things like, trying to think of a good example. The color of the detectable warning surfaces, sometimes that's a concern for sort of a community aesthetic standpoint. In some cases, to achieve an appropriate slope to the ramp, it involves reducing the height of the sidewalk where it is up against the side of the building. And so then the consideration is, are we exposing more historic material or are we adding a little curb so that we're not exposing more, but then there's a little curb? So it's those kind of details to make sure that all of the pieces are coming together just right. Every once in a while, our designers will propose changing the entrance of a building to add a step or remove a step, or they're concerned about an awning that's too low. So there are things that can come up and be discussed. And ultimately, if something is an adverse effect to a historic resource, then we don't do it. And we just explain carefully in the project record why we're not doing it. But what I tend to ask our engineers to do is start by telling us what their preferred example is so that we can really consider whether we can get it done or not, rather than them editing their process too early on, trying to guess at what we're gonna say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Heritage Awards.
Nominations are in, nomination period is closed. We're moving towards presentation at council meeting in early October
October 7th.
with the awards, like more slightly festive celebration at the Art Walk on October 11th. Yeah, let's move on.
Council is festive.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
They'll be at the museum. The festivities.
not council.
That would be great. Cookies. Yeah.
Nothing else. Anyone have any other quick, Tom?
Just one other property here, the 344 8th Street American Legion location. Yeah, no worries.
Is there a proposal on it?
Yes. No application yet,
Oh.
but proposal. So this is how it looks today. And
Very exciting.
yeah.
It's like an American Legion.
So the proposal, there is a chiropractor that would be coming into this location. There is a special stipulation in the code because it is in the R1 zone being residential. You know, American Legion is kind of quasi-public sort of thing, but we can allow a commercial use in the residential district if more than, or it says the majority of the square footage is within 100 feet of the nearest residential site. So that being said, we think we can get there as far as that goes, which is kind of,
Do we have to review any sort of special use permit or variant? Well, I guess not a variance, but special use permit?
yeah, there could be a variance
Or
there,
variance, I guess.
depending on it, if they can get the majority of the square footage, because a minor variance would be for a quantifiable amount up to a 30% deviation,
Okay.
which this could be like 2, maybe 3 feet outside of that measurement area. Sorry, I went too far. Here it is. So let me go to zoning. Here's our closest commercial zone.
Okay.
The measurement excludes public right of way. So if you take the measurement from this corner and you go across the public right of way and then start your measurement, we can get there. So
Okay.
that's how we're interpreting it in the office, because if you
Mhm.
take a diagonal, that adds more
Mhm.
distance across the
And it has to be to the front door.
driveway. The majority of, it doesn't say anything other than the majority of the square footage. So if I pull up,
I mean, that seems like a pretty, like, that bottom, whatever third of the front of the building plus that
Right.
garage is,
Right.
would be the majority. Like, that feels like you could easily get that.
and actually it says majority of the structure, not the square footage. So we were even contemplating an extension just off of the side here to amass a little more square foot or structure, because it doesn't say walled structure, it doesn't say livable or, you know, anything like that. So this is, I guess he's the architect. Do you know Don? What is it? Don Sherman?
Nope.
Possibly. Yeah. He's the one that's putting all of this together. So this measurement going across to 2 different locations and creating an arc to see that this is 50.13 with 49.87 on the top portion. So we think we can get there. I guess the main reason I wanted to bring this is the proposal of the chiropractor. One side would be like the acupuncture and the other side would be the, I guess, actual chiropractic work or stretching or popping of backs or whatever they do. But he was wanting to return it to a little more of a historic look, seeing as how the structure did change in the past to, you know, what we see it as now, with vinyl windows and a lot of stuff that isn't historic.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I did look up the structure in the listing. It is intrusive, non-contributing, or something to that effect. So it is not a contributing or primary significant or anything like that. So maybe we could get it back to that status with these updates. I'm not sure how that works. And I did not look into the new survey to see if this was captured or not, but currently it does not have I guess necessarily a favorable listing. And then, yeah, the changes that would occur, facade, windows, breaking up those large picture windows.
What's that like little yellow thing in between the windows?
Yeah, what does it say? New
Lights,
windows.
Decorative panel and lighting.
Panel and lighting,
So
yeah,
that's like a weird fake window in the middle with a light.
yeah. And then I guess some backlit kind of panel.
Little sconce.
Very,
Yeah.
Little Glimmer to it.
Right.
Do we have any historic photos?
I have 1949. So Legion started meeting in 1919 in the, I think, the IU
and
building.
then they already had the windows on there in 49, it looks like.
Yeah, most, well, but it's
Those
it's a
are
set of four.
Yeah, those are more like the historic.
And I do have, if we go back to 2008 in the imagery.
Originally, it would have been two pairs of two.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they're the old,
That was different.
Yeah.
There's the old siding, the shake.
yeah.
Do we think that the historic entrance, the front doors ever were on center there, or have they always been off to the sides of that?
What was it originally? What was this house or what was
I
this
think it was
property
built for
before?
this. It was built for the Legion
Okay,
in late 30s or 40s, probably early 40s. Yeah, I mean, in the 49,
I
the
mean-
doors are off to the
yeah,
sides.
I guess I don't,
Okay. It
obviously
definitely
we don't have a permit yet, but I guess I don't really have any major. It wasn't built historic. I don't know that the look that they're going for is Washburn historic, really. I don't know if other people have thoughts on that. Celine?
So I have a question, which is my understanding is that it currently is not providing historic value for the district, so that really whatever they choose to do, it can't provide less historic district. Correct?
That's a
Okay.
good point, yeah.
Unless they were adding stories and it was
Right,
tower,
right,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
but-
already
Something's
incompatible. And so I'm not sure that we even have
So it's in the
Purview
district.
over, okay, so that's.
So
not for it
it
to be-
still
Yeah.
gets captured by us, but I just don't think we're gonna have much
Right.
commentary on if they wanna make it look more historic and more like the Washburn,
Mhm.
that's great. I don't know.
So this
On
would
your
be a
end.
type 1 because it is non-contributing status. Any changes, additions, modifications would be classed as just a type 1 application. I wanted to bring it here to see if there were any major qualms or pushback against it in any way, just so I can let him know, yes, go ahead with your design and get us an application.
Send him an old picture, just, for.
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah, I guess.
Change of use, I guess, because it is going more commercial away from this American Legion kind of
Is
quasi.
it an accessory use right now? For the R1? I guess that's just me being a nerd.
Yeah, I
care,
don't, I
guess.
don't know, because if it
Clubs are
operated that
allowed.
way.
in
Allowed
R1,
usually,
Like there's
yeah.
some weird uses that are allowed. in
Yeah.
R1.
Yes, there are.
Then, this should be the.
If there's an appropriate way for us to just express a general, support of the ethic of historic preservation without overstepping our boundary, that might be. Because the idea of restoring some of the historic character sounds great.
Right.
If we can do that without kind of venturing into Disneyland vibes, that would be wonderful. But it is, I think it's outside of our scope.
Did those windows in the center used to be double doors, or is the entrance now
Think
off
so.
to the left?
Yeah, it's left and right. There's 2 doors there. I think Jenna's picture shows doors in some other locations, but at least the street view imagery back to 2008.
No, that's where the doors are in
Yeah.
historic, because
Okay.
they're on the.
Okay, so there's still
so
windows.
Both sides are where they've been historically, it seems.
So those windows are always windows.
But yeah, public and institutional, a club, which is what that would probably fall under. And then commercial is where we get into the professional office category, and that has some special standards for going into an residential district, yeah.
I wonder if there's a regional context for American Legion buildings or anything like that.
I don't know, it's interesting, because it is actually you know, it'd be very eligible now if it weren't, you know, ugly.
Right.
It's of the-
It's, and it's of community interest, I
Right.
guess.
Has it really changed that dramatically?
No, it's
No.
the siding and those big
Yeah.
picture windows, right?
You think it's rather plain then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been plain, but like, it's not the original, you know, kind of. The original siding had more texture and the windows there were 4 windows where the 2 big picture windows are.
And so the use to get it there, if they are even 2 or 3 feet outside of that 100-foot range as measured, it would be a minor variance, which would avoid the possible avenue for them to try to seek a zone change.
Okay.
The minor, I think, is a type 2, which wouldn't go to planning commission to have
That's
their
what I was gonna
input. Yeah,
ask.
we're trying to keep it
Is
as a
the
director
order-
level.
The order that it needed to go in,
Yeah.
if that happened, does it, like, cause I know if it's gonna go to the planning commission, we also have to give input, but it's never been clear to me
Yeah.
from the code, the order that occurs in, if the planning commission says, this is what we're doing, and then we give comment, or if we give comment and then the planning commission,
Yeah, so in this
this has never
instance,
come up.
because it's like a quantitative
Right.
amount that we're looking at, it's not really, I guess, a function that the historic commission needs to be involved with.
Right, that's what I was-
And being a minor variance, it would be an in-house director level approval, so the commission would stay out of it. And that would then avoid the need for them to go down the route of a zone change, which could then open this up to all kinds of commercial uses, which I don't think the commission would want anyways. So this is the best route to keep it in the R1 zone as a, you know, commercial use being allowed
Sure.
through that.
Now, is
those
it,
means.
the whole thing gonna be a chiropractor office then?
Yeah,
If it was me, I don't know, but, and I don't know if I, money wise, but I think I'd, wanna make a front and with a one entrance
Mhm.
and, you know, so that, I mean, it's kind of confusing there.
Yeah. The way it
And-
was described was that one side would be more geared towards acupuncture and things that are not
But
necessarily
you'd have a
the,
receptionist office there in the center then and,
yeah.
yeah.
So any changes other than those front facade would be interior building permits only for that. And, you know, just to modify the space that they need for their practice.
Thank you.
But that's it. And maybe we'll get some landscaping out in front of it.
That'd be
in the
great.
process.
That'd be great.
Instead of that, and the parking would probably go away. They do have some around the side there. We did talk about stacked parking for employees. And we think we have the 18 feet or 36 total feet from front to alley for them to be able to stack that way.
Serious stuff.
Like the
Tandem.
organization of it.
Yeah, blocking someone in, basically,
Oh,
parking behind them.
gotcha.
Tandem.
Yeah, tandem, yeah. But that would be for the employees and
Sure.
then additional parking. It doesn't sound like it would be high volume, but yeah, that's an allowable use anyways, so
That's true.
that's all I got.
All right. There's nothing else.
I had one small thing.
Go for it.
For the Larimer House that we heard about at the start of the meeting. If there is like a sensitive, or like an expedited timeline or anything like that, could there be a role for our consultants to kind of help with their, I don't know, and maybe it's not necessarily considered either, but I think in the past we've had plenty of hours kind of banked with our consultants. If they're trying to move quickly, I don't know if that would take some work off of you, Tom, or if it's even allowed. but-
So looking at the code, I think that this could come in as a type 1, which would be a shorter review time, a little less involved for everybody. The code, if it is contributing and this, or at least the Larimer House is primary significant contributing, but the provision in the code says if the changes are to occur in the rear of the property or, you know, not a front facing, then it can be a type 1. If there are major alterations that are occurring in the front, that raises it to the type 2. So this would stay pretty low level. I would still let y'all know when the application comes in and if there's any design input, but I think we could avoid the need for our consultant being so minor. But if there's any considerations there that you think they would have a good, input or buy-in for to help guide the process as far as ADA compliance while still retaining historic,
Sure.
historicness,
It sounds like
then
maybe
we can include them.
it would only tip into the type 2 category if, like, I think they mentioned exterior paint, which sometimes leads to finding rot or window issue. I don't know. So if there was like some expansion of the scope, then that
Like
would.
the
Yeah.
poles in the
Yeah.
front for the porch or something, then that could kick it up.
And one would assume that by sprucing up the front, they don't mean slapping vinyl windows in there. I mean, it seemed like
They
they,
seem pretty
yeah.
committed.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
All right, honestly.
We don't weigh in if they're essentially just restoring it, correct?
There's.
Not a change to their plan for what it,
Yeah,
like?
yeah, so if in the guidelines, it discreetly says that historic commission or this change requires historic commission approval, that's where I always seek approval. If it's changes that can just be done, in-house, or if it's a minor kind of thing, then I still notify, but there's no need, I guess, at that point for.
So like when the cornice was done at the IOF building, that one, I don't remember that one coming to us because it was just sort of an in-kind reconstruction.
Right, yeah, I think that would have been the case on that.
It was kind of fun to watch that one.
Mhm.
Nothing that would need like commission oversight to bring it to a new kind of historic setting. But yeah, because they're just switching out in kind or just refurbishing. And that's a lot of the language in the guidelines is if it's being replaced, it needs approval, but if it's just being refurbished or otherwise restored, then it doesn't need approval. Stuff like windows, doors and things like that. And that being said, the jury is still out on that one with the French doors that
Oh,
you
yeah.
caught. They did submit and approve or an application. We did the decision. I haven't heard anything back, so I might be getting code enforcement back on them to get it going.
So great.
Yeah.
There it goes. Indeed. All right. Anything else? All right, we will call this meeting of the Historic Commission adjourned at 5:24 PM. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Bye.